Who's the next Tank Dell? Who's the next Tank Dell? I get that question probably 3 or 4 times a day. Smitty, who's the next Tank Dell? And there's a lot of people trying to climb on this train as if they can speak to who's the next Tank Dell with authority. But there's only one channel that can actually talk about this from authority. It's the channel that predicted Tank Dell. Everybody else is playing house. We're here playing real life. Javon Baker, could he be the next Tank Dell? The Fantasy Football Show begins now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
That's right. Your boy here, this channel, we are the ones that told everyone about Tank Dell. Everybody else is playing house. We're playing real life. We're playing big boy ball. And we're telling you who the next Tank Dell is. No one else is. Let me just put that out there and make that abundantly clear. Javon Baker is one of the leading candidates to be the next Tank Dell. This is not an absolute final call. I don't know when I'll make that final call. I don't know when I'll put my stamp of approval on the next Tank Dell, but there most certainly will be 2, 3, 4 guys in the mix, and maybe we don't even lock it down to one. Maybe we say, look, it's deep sleeper call, Javon Baker, this man right here, mid-range call, this player right here, Brandon Rice, there's Luke McCaffrey. There's a lot of potential next Tank Dell. You could say Ricky Parasol, but he's a bigger name. Is he qualified? Maybe he does qualify. We'll break down all those players along the way as well. Not today, but along the way throughout the offseason. But this man here, Javon Baker, brings a whole lot of Tank Dell to his game. He has that mentality of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we talked about this the other day when this news dropped. But this guy came out and said this. He said, no way in effing America 10 receivers better than me, out of your effing mind. Speaking about himself already as a top 10 wide receiver. Now, while this could be looked at as diva mentality like, right? Oh no, here's another diva receiver. We don't need more of these diva receivers. It gets in the way. It hampers the growth. It hampers their development. They get in their head too early. The fact that he's this diva already before he's even taken a snap. He's the second drafted wide receiver on his team from the rookie NFL draft class. So he's not even the number 1 receiver taken. But that's where the diva or the St. Brown in him, I think, it's going to end up helping him. And I guess we got to make a call, right? Is this too much diva, too much Hollywood when he hasn't even begun yet? When he hasn't even climbed above Jalen Polk, who was the higher drafted rookie wide receiver and a really good prospect. Some scouts even called top 5, top 6 in this draft class at one point. Jalen Polk is a pretty good player. Just like we saw Anquan Bolden in Arizona and Bryant. Remember when Bryant was drafted ahead of Bolden and Bolden was the better player? This might be that situation where Javon Baker's better than the player drafted ahead of him. And that is not crazy. It's happened before. This man is acting like St. Brown, but in a way, in my opinion, feels more like determination, not absolute oblivious, like Hollywood diva mentality. It feels driven, hardworking, driven, ready to prove people wrong on the field, not necessarily diva mentality. Give me, I'm entitled, look at me, I'm Mr. Hotshot. This is a guy saying, put a football in my hands. Let me put the names out of people that got drafted ahead of me. And yeah, Jalen Polk, you're one of them. You're one of the people I've got in my notebook that got drafted ahead of me, and I'm coming for you. And there's no guarantee here. There's no guarantee that any of these guys can be the next Tank Dell. But this guy, he has a lot of the makings of it. And I ask you to trust in the process here. I ask you to invest in this man in several of your drafts, especially dynasty drafts, because the cost of entry is very low. There's no way you're getting burned if this doesn't work out because his cost of entry is so low. Even in dynasty, you're not stealing him away, but you're certainly going to get him at a place where it's no big deal if Javon Baker doesn't work out. It's no big deal. You're not losing anything. You're not losing a league. You're not losing an early draft pick. But this guy absolutely has the makings of being maybe the next Tank Dell. And that's why he's the deepest call, the biggest home run swing, the biggest out of nowhere prediction on the Moon Man list. And we always have one or two super deep calls. Tank Dell was one of them. People said, Tank Dell, he's 108 pounds soaking wet. How is he going to do well? He's going to get dominated at the line of scrimmage, Smitty. We said, watch and learn. He was a Moon Man extraordinaire. Javon Baker, Moon Man extraordinaire. Let's ride.
The Moon Man, dropping loads in outer space.
Space Monsters.
And, looking at some of his stats, let's look at his career stats. They're not going to wow you to the point of you're like, wow, I'm racing to go pick this guy up. Oh, my God, no one's seen these stats before ever. Look at this. No one's suggesting that. No one's suggesting that. He was at Alabama, by the way, and transferred to UCF. But there's some of that, that mentality, dog wide receiver mentality built into him, which is good. But 52 receptions, 1139 and 7 touchdowns. Not bad at all at the college level. And some might say, well, those are good, but we don't have a big track record. We do have 2 back-to-back 50 reception seasons, but he really took a big step in 2023. And sometimes the stats don't tell the entire story. Sometimes you have to look at even the game logs and just the footage, the raw footage. When you watch this kid play, you can see the dog mentality in him. And specifically the postseason game here at the top, 9 receptions, 173 and a touchdown. He was absolutely dominant in this game. They lost the game. He was doing his best to try and help this team win. Take a look at the remainder of this guy's game log dating back. Let's go to the bottom on the 8/31 date. 59 yards, 73 yards. Then he starts picking it up. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 100-yard games. He has a multiple touchdown game. And again, these stats, if you were to gloss over the stats, he would not stand out to you if you were looking only at data and not looking with your eyeballs watching the film. What I see with this kid is the ability to not only want to learn, but excel quickly. And his mentality, you can't teach a player. The St. Brown mentality, the I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to beat everybody out. And there's something special going on in New England that wasn't present before the NFL draft. Clearly, there's something special going on in New England that says you draft 2 QBs to protect yourself, which is fantastic. You go get Drake May, probably not going to fail, okay? But Joe Milton, what a fantastic move. Double up on your quarterbacks. You're almost guaranteed to hit, and May's probably the one that's going to hit, obviously. Then you do the same thing at wide receiver. You go get Jalen Polk, good prospect, and you get Javon Baker. Fantastic deep call. This is absolutely amazing. I love it. I love it. Don't worry, Malachi Corley is going to also have a video on being the next Tank Dell potentially. Brandon Rice and Luke McCaffrey probably will be in the mix, but this video is about Javon Baker. This is a Javon Baker extraordinary video right here. Doesn't mean that Malachi Corley, your boy's favorite yak yard monster, doesn't get into this conversation. You heard it first from this guy that Malachi Corley was the next potential Deebo Samuel. So we'll talk about that. But I almost want to say Malachi Corley is the next maybe Deebo Samuel. So that's almost why you might not even see that video about Tank Dell, because he's a totally different player. Rashee Rice is nice. I just don't, I'm sorry, Rashee Rice. Brandon Rice is nice, but I just don't know how I feel about that one yet. I like him a lot, but it's not like he's in the best situation. I think people are overestimating his environment and how likely it is that he's going to be able to climb up. Malachi Corley is a fantastic player. He doesn't have the deep feel that this one has, right? So it's a more obvious choice. But it doesn't mean he can't be considered the next Tank Dell, because he's still not getting drafted super high. But absolutely love this kid right here. This is the closest thing as of this moment that I deem deep. Nobody sees it coming, really. Fantastic call. Grab him in your Dynasty and redraft leagues. Potential next Tank Dell. Again, Luke McCaffrey, Malachi Corley, and a whole bunch of other players will be in consideration for this. This is just the first video, the first player of the 3, 4, 5 names we will toss out as the next potential Tank Dell.
The Moon Men, dropping loads in outer space.
Yeah, DJ Chark to the Chargers. Wow. Big deal, John. Next. Like, who cares? Who cares about DJ Chark to the Chargers? Another mid wide receiver team. This is the biggest mid group of wide receivers I've ever seen. And the biggest mid group of running backs I've ever seen. I don't care how good Harbaugh is. This is the most boring offense and team I've ever seen. It's just ridiculous. The amount of people saying, Chark to the Chargers with exclamation points. What are you talking about? Who cares? Who cares about DJ Chark to the Chargers? What good is he going to be? What are we doing? What are we doing with our lives? All right, so get ready for the Malachi Corley edition of this video, probably next. Maybe Luke McCaffrey after that. Maybe a couple other players that really fit the bill for the next Tank Dell. There you go. We've got some news today, very little news, some kind of boring news. It's almost as boring as the DJ Chark to the Chargers. Like, I can't believe how many people, like 3 or 4, either that or it's John posting it over and over and over, and it looks like more people, but I can't believe how many people are like, oh my God, DJ Chark's a Charger, go Bulls. What are we doing? What are we doing? Becton, by the way, was nice move by the Eagles that we never even really talked about. The Eagles are just playing 5D chess. Yeah, injuries, I get it, but I mean, it's a great move. Robert Saleh doesn't expect there to be any restrictions for Aaron Rodgers in the coming weeks and months. So get ready for full-blown Aaron Rodgers mode. Then we're going to see what Garrett Wilson, Malachi Corley, Breece Hall, this entire offense has to show for, and we're going to start getting excited about Aaron Rodgers peppering Garrett Wilson and Corley with targets, and Breece Hall getting some good room to run. According to this report, Commanders want to rely on a strong defense and run game to reduce the burden on Jaden Daniels, so maybe Austin Eckler gets a little bit more run. And then, of course, the news today, Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Miami Dolphins. This doesn't have much of a fantasy impact. It's maybe a good move potentially for the Miami Dolphins, but I think Odell is overhyped all the time. Like, hey, sign Odell. He's okay. He's not going to do what he used to do. He's older. He's injury prone. The odds of him giving it his all and not tearing something massive season ending is so low. The odds of that working out. I don't mind him, but from a fantasy perspective, if you're going to take him, it better be your last wide receiver or something like that. Odell's barely, anything. Chark and Odell are the most boring conversation of fantasy football you could have. Claypool too. Chase Claypool, who I liked at one point. I really did like Claypool at one point. Thought he had the makings of potentially something special, but that guy just couldn't put it together either. Sometimes that happens. The Bills signed Claypool. It's interesting. Dare I say it's better than the Chark value? Dare I say it's better than the Odell Beckham Jr. value? I probably rather take a chance on Claypool, and all three are going to probably not work out. So there you go. Drake May and Brissett will compete for the starting job, according to this report. And that's about all she wrote for the news today. There's not much going on. Chark, who cares? That's it. Najee Harris, we talked about, that was yesterday's news. So dating back to yesterday's news of Najee not getting his 5th-year option picked up, which is awful news for his long-term value in Pittsburgh, and he's probably not playing there next year. So therefore, maybe Jaylen Warren gets the nod at some point during the year. So all the hopes and dreams of getting, elite production out of Najee in an Arthur Smith offense to begin with, or a rushing attack. He doesn't own the offense. I think Mike Sullivan owns the offense, but Arthur Smith controls the run for the most part, and there was already concerns about one running back being able to lead this unit. And now you got this no fifth-year option picked up. Najee Harris is a scary player to own at this point. Didn't feel like it was heading that direction, even though we worried about Arthur, but it looks like that is the direction it's now going to go, because that is what we're dealing with. No picking up of the fifth-year option is a devastating blow to his fantasy value. I feel like Baker is already shooting up rookie drafts, though. Would a middle of the second round be a reach? No, I think in the second round, once you get past 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, and like 2.5 on, just take your guy. I don't care if it's a third-round guy. Just take him. The ADP's out the window. Number one, I don't care about ADP in the late second round or mid-second round. I don't. I will reach like hell, and I don't care who laughs at me. I want to get my guy. Why? Because people could get cute and grab your player. Number two, no one, these random Joes in your draft, they're not versed on second round and third round rookie ADP data. They might just get out of pocket and grab players left and right, grab a player from their favorite team. So yeah, no, grab whoever the hell you want in the middle of round two. If it's Frank Gore Jr., I don't even care. Like don't let anybody tell you that you need to stick to ADP once you get past the middle of the second round in a rookie-only draft, because things get crazy there. I mean, try and get Frank Gore Jr. for free. I'm just merely trying to emphasize that don't let anybody scare you away from getting your guy, and that somebody gets cute in your draft and grabs, the player you wanted, and you're like, damn it, I didn't even care about who I took in the second round. I just took him because I felt like I had to. Don't play that game. $10 hauler from my boy Al, coming in strong. Al, you monster, you. Al says, I have the 5th pick in a 10-man Dynasty startup. Who do you pick, or who do you like at the 5? I mean, in a Dynasty startup, it is nice to get a receiver like Jamar Chase. It's nice to get a receiver like JJ, just because of the longevity. So I would lean toward one of those three guys, Chase, JJ, or Marvin Harrison Jr. I like a lot. I would probably say like Marvin might be gone by 5. If he's not, I'd take him at 5. So give me the one of the receivers. I love the running backs, but a dynasty startup, I don't mind going wide receiver for the longevity. I love Breece Hall and I love Bijan. I could get behind either one of those guys, but there is something nice about MHJ at 5 or JJ at 5 or Jamar Chase at 5. I think those would be my top 5 overall players essentially in a dynasty startup. So that's kind of where I go. And if you guys want rankings, year-round fantasy football rankings, get on over to my thefantasyfootballshow.com, thefantasyfootballshow.com, year-round rankings and advice. This is not your mom and pop's draft kit. Our draft kit comes out in August. This is no draft kit. This is a year-round operation. Like, we don't screw around. Even Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 5 option for you, bro. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is a phenomenal pick there, too. I'd have to say it's so close, though. Maybe it'd be Marvin Harrison Jr., JJ, Bijan, Gibbs, Chase, like potentially in that order. It's tough to say. Like, I'd have to be on the clock, and quite honestly, it's so close. I would want a couple leagues. If I had the same pick in 3 different drafts, I would do something different in each one of the 3 to diversify. It really is that close, but you can't go wrong with any of those 5. But wide receiver is not a bad option. Even though I have your rankings, says Theo. Theo says celebrating 6 months membership. Ricky Parasol, Xavier Legette, and Mitchell. Don't worry, my rankings are they changed from day to day. So like you could ask me, and I'm not going to say go look at my rankings necessarily, because if I go look at my rankings, I might change something immediately every time I look at them. So that's okay. Theo, appreciate you celebrating your 6 months, my good guy. Ricky Parasol, Xavier Legette, or A.D. Mitchell. I'm going to go Legette, Parasol, Mitchell. I like Mitchell a lot. There's a lot of off the field and just personality concerns that make me rather go Parasol over him, but I'm going to take Legette over Parasol because Parasol's buried as at best he's like the 5th or 6th reception option right now, and nothing's changing right now. So what do? Just bank on it for sure changing for the better. It's a good bet he will eventually get one of the 2 starting wide receiver roles, but there's no guarantee, and so Legette's just guaranteed. Ricky Parasol could be this year's Puka Tank Dell. He could be, but not this year, Isaac. I mean, how can he? You know, like I like him a lot, but is Debo getting traded now? If he is, then maybe this could be the case. But Ricky Parasol can't be Puka or Dell when he's the 5th or 6th option for targets on the team, Isaac. I appreciate you. You know you're my boy, Blue. But call in on this. Not for me to yell at you, because you know I love you, pal. But like, call in and tell me your stance, because I would like to know the rebuttal that you have, because he is at best the 4th or 5th option for targets. There's not a chance. Maybe showing signs of it, and then for 2025 and they trade away Debo or something, or if Debo were to get hurt, maybe that's your prediction. But even then, it's like he's still like 3rd or 4th for targets. Like Puka Nacua was number 1 on the team for targets. So it's kind of hard I know people want to be very excited about Ricky Parasol, and no offense to my Niner fans, but a lot of you didn't even know who the hell he was, unless you watched this show or you were deeply into fantasy like Isaac, and guys like Isaac would have known. But most of the Niner fans didn't even know who he was. I had to tell Niner fans who he was. I went into Raj's live stream and once again said who the Niners should take. Ricky Parasol. I said McConkey or Parasol is who the Niners should take to replace or Malachi Corley. I gave Raj 3 names: Ricky Parasol, Malachi Corley, and McConkey. And I don't think any of them knew who any of the 3 were. In his live stream, I don't think people knew who the hell I was talking about. And I said the same thing about Brandon Ayuk. Very good at trying to find fits for your Niners. I'm very good at it. Ricky Parasol was one of my choices, one of my top 3 choices for the Niners to replace wide receivers. So I love him, and I do like him in this spot. But I don't know how he can be Puka Nacua unless Debo or Ayuk gets injured. And even then, he's not even close to Puka's like workload. But I do like him a lot. I love Ricky Parasol. I think he's a fantastic player. And I mean, the Niners didn't do well in getting to the point to take him. Their route that they took was not a good one. They definitely overshot. They overspent. They messed up on Dijon. They should have taken. The Eagles played 5D chess against the Niners the entire draft. Cooper Dijon going to the Eagles was just freaking unbelievable. And then the Niners taking Parasol, a 2nd round grade player, in round 1, panicking on the Debo Ayuk trade that may or may not have happened with Buffalo. I tell you right now, I almost know in the core of my being, the Buffalo Bills and Niners were trying to work it out, and that's why that went down. And then there's all these reports that the Niners tried to leak the Dijon pick to see who was the rat in the building who was spreading the rumors, and then the Dijon was announced as the pick, and then all of a sudden they took it back and went Parasol. But do we really think that the Niners were playing that high-level conspiracy exercise during the draft while they're trying to are they really going to do that? Or was this a case of they really did have a rat, and there's a rat in the organization that said we're going Dijon, and then the Niners panicked and said, whoa, we still might pull this off with the Bills. The Bills are going to trade down again to get out of round 1, draft at the top of round 1, so we can negotiate in the evening after day 1 concludes here, and there's a whole day break. Maybe we just take Parasol here, and they freaked out and they switched it up. That's what I believe truly happened, and nobody can convince me otherwise. I don't even care if John and Kyle say otherwise. No, Parasol was our pick the whole time. I don't buy it. That's my theory. I think it's very logical. I think the Niners freaked out, and they tried to buy time with the Buffalo Bills at the same time, and it just ended up not working. The Niners should have taken Cooper Dijon and then taken Ricky Parasol in the 2nd round. And if Parasol went, he went. You get Lad McConkey. And Lad McConkey and Parasol, I don't want to hear from anybody that one is going to be better than the other in that offense, because they both have tremendous upside. I like Ricky Parasol a lot. He'll be very good if he's ever called upon to start in the 49ers system, as would Lad McConkey. But the Dijon part is inexcusable, and the Niners got a D grade from me in the draft because of that move. Even though they drafted two guys I really like, Guarendo's fantastic. Dare I say Guarendo might be a moon man tomorrow or tonight or at some point. I mean, the Niners have two really good guys. So it's hard to give him, but I'll give him a C. I'll give him a C grade. Because they ended up drafting, some players that I really like. But it was almost as if they screwed up so badly in the order of it, it still makes it hard to give them a solid score. Let's go deep diving. I don't know if this is going to stick. This is a flying by the seat of my pants situation here.
The moon men dropping loads in outer space.
Motion detected at the front door.
Ziggy, show me the front door. Dare we say Guarendo may be in the mix here? Dare we say, Ziggy off. Dare we say Guarendo may be in the mix here? I think I'm going to put him just in the corner here until we decide, but Guarendo could absolutely be in the mix for a Moon Man spot. I'm going to put him right there. Yeah, Malachi Corley. You guys know how much I love Malachi Corley. So there's no needing to convince me of talking about Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley is a midseason monster. And he's been on this list before anybody even knew who he was. So Malachi Corley to the moon. He's got the potential to be the next Deebo Samuel. He's got the potential to be an absolute monster and gem. He's going to remain on the midseason monster list. I don't know that I'll put him on the Moon Man list because I think it will take some time to get him into a monster mode, but midseason monster he is, as is Spears, as is Adunze, hoping he finds a path that may not be there right away. Penix Jr., Spears, this is a nice little list. I like the midseason monster list. It's coming together really nicely. We got the Mars Man.
He's on a shuttle to Mars.
Probably the most attractive.
Mars Man.
I mean, look at that. That list is phenomenal. Just powerful.
Loads dropping.
The Saturn Men.
One small step for man, one giant leap for Saturn.
Kind of funny how history will remember this differently, but you're here to experience this from the jump. Hurts and Mahomes will be two players that people say, oh, bold list. Bold list. Like when we reflect back on this and go, look at our Saturn Man list and how it smashed, and people are going to go, oh, so bold of you to put Hurts and Mahomes on a list, the number one and number two quarterback. Such a bold list, Smitty. But little do they know that history right now is that these guys are the best value in fantasy. Hurts going at 4.1 on Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. Mahomes going at 5.1 on Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. Proves they are the biggest sleepers in fantasy football 2024. Oh my God, did Smitty just say that Mahomes and Hurts are sleepers? You can't be a sleeper and be a big name player. The definition of a sleeper on this channel, Bob, is anybody being slept on ADP wise. And there's nobody being slept on more than Mahomes and Hurts. So you tell me how this isn't absolutely the boldest predictions here on the channel walking into 2024, even as uncomfortable as it is for you to admit.
The Saturn Men.
One small
4.1, 5.1.
giant leap.
There's just, it's going to be silly after the year when people start acting like those weren't bold predictions and bold takes. It's going to make me angry. I'll scream and yell, but the real ones will know that everyone was ignoring these guys but us. And we smashed and won leagues because of it. We got two super chats here, one from Coble and one from Isaac. Isaac says Corley, Roman, Wilson could be if not Ricky. I don't mind those. I love Corley. Corley's going to be an absolute gem on this channel till the end of time. And again, I take very big pride that there's no one higher on Corley than your boy Smitty. This channel, you can't find a single person that talked about Malachi Corley before this channel. And you really can't find many people that talked about Ricky Parasol higher than your boy. When we started ranking Ricky Parasol, talking about how out of all of the guys, Ricky Parasol was, before he landed in San Francisco, was one of the biggest potential Tank Dells. And we did the whole ranking, the rookie ranking, and Parasol, McConkey was high, but Parasol slipped up a little bit higher to like the 6th overall rookie spot, if I remember correctly. We had Leggett and Corley and Parasol all kind of neck and neck. And they were all right there for that 5-6 spot, right below Brian Thomas Jr. and McConkey. And so Corley, people are going to jump on the Corley train, and we're just not going to let them on late. At some point, the Corley train is full. You can't get on the Malachi Corley train a month from now. We won't let you on it. There's just no way. So don't even try. Don't even bother getting on the train. If you try, we won't let you on. And if you try and get on the Malachi Corley train, then we're going to take away your Bijan card if you try and get on this train without a pass.
Your Bijan card has been revoked.
Let's see here. Baker is an asteroid. He's going to come in, and then he is leaving. He's a flyby. Don't have a QB. If no one, okay, whatever, John. John, you're proving you disagree with everything I say, and for that reason, your takes are just gonna not hit well here. Just letting you know. So continue to talk your trash. He has no quarterback when the Patriots drafted Joe Milton to back up in case Drake May ends up busting or getting hurt. They've got probably one of the craftiest QB rooms in the league in terms of up and coming. John, or Josh, or whatever the hell your name is. Tylee Smitty Baker had his pinky painted last year in one game. He can't be there. He can't be there for you. Remember, you don't like painted nails like Caleb. Smitty, hit yourself with a take a lap. How about Tylee, you take a big fat lap yourself? I'll send you on both.
And off he goes to the planet known as Uranus.
Tylee forever lives on planet Uranus. There you go, Tylee. You're now in good company. Tylee lives on planet Uranus. Congratulations, Tylee. Welcome to the club. The club that you don't want to be in. Non-Superflex PPR Dynasty. Who do you like most? JD5, Leggett, Ricky, 80, Mitchell, Polk. This team is struggling at wide receiver. Hard to pass on JD5. Yeah, I'm taking JD5. Even if it's a non-Superflex, I mean, you're talking about some very deep calls there, and JD5 is by far and away higher ranked. And if you start drafting the position and not the player, Coble, you're doing exactly what I described not to do at every turn. JD5 has so much more value, even in one QB, than any of these guys. I love Ricky Parasol. I love Leggett. Those are fantastic players. But JD5 is in the conversation of the top 5 or 6 overall in a non-Superflex. So there's just no way around it. Plus the trade value of him later for wide receiver, even if people don't trade quarterbacks very often, you got more options. Maybe you can trade your current quarterback and roll with JD5. But there's no way I'm passing on the trade value of JD5 and what he holds. I just want to say so much to whomever gifted me a subscription. You are the man. Who gifted memberships right now? Who gifted? How did I miss that? Gifted memberships. Oh, you mean on another show? Okay, yeah, because I don't see any right now. But yeah, whoever gifted you a membership is a saint. It was probably Tebow last night. He probably gifted you a membership last night, my guy. Appreciate you saying so, and drop a fire emoji for whoever did it. I'm surprised I'm not on the list yet, John. John, you're close. You're close, John. Leggett could be this year's Jonathan Mingo. That's true. The only thing I'll say about Jonathan Mingo is he didn't have a good situation, you know, and I hate that it didn't work out. He was a really crafty pick, and I liked him a lot. We all liked him on here. Mingo is his name-o, M-I-N-G-O. Mingo was his name-o. Remember that? It was a fun little skit. I don't know that he's going to do anything in the NFL. Who knows? Maybe he has a good year this year. But I think the difference is Jonathan Jonathan Brooks, a whole bunch of other great picks. I think the Carolina Panthers are doing well. They had an A- draft. That's a really good score for me. There's only 2 A+ drafts. That was the Cardinals and the Eagles. A- draft for Carolina, A- draft for New England, A- draft for the Washington Commanders. You know, so I feel ya. I'm all about best player available. Coble to the moon. Appreciate you. Yeah, I can't guarantee people will trade for quarterbacks later though, but I couldn't pass on him, my guy. Travis says, I asked John if he has ever positive takes once, still waiting for one. John, John, you're a negative Noah up in this community. Like everything you say is negative. The Panthers receiver room is packed. I don't know who becomes the wide receiver 1, says Isaac. Yeah, but there's only one really, really good potential option, in my opinion, for the future, and that's Leggett. I think Leggett's the best one there. It's a crowded room, but not a very talented room. Somebody was saying something like, "Oh, before the draft, oh yeah, they're sure giving Bryce Young a lot of weapons before the draft." And I'm like, "What? The receiver room is not. I don't like it. It's full of a bunch of players that have disappointed me over and over. So Deontay, whatever, I don't care. Leggett's got the best value, but yes, he does have, I think, a combination of great talent now. Like putting Deontay or someone like that as the number 2 with Leggett, that works for me. With Jonathan Brooks as the starting running back, that works for me. I like what they're doing a lot. They're definitely putting together a really strong squad right now. So very, very, very pleased with what I see in Carolina. All right, we're going to get to the phone lines now. So dial into the phone lines, brought to you by Grindhouse. I haven't opened the phone lines yet, so hang tight while I do so, and then you can dial in. The phone number will be at the top of the screen. And let me see if the phone lines have been opened, and so you can call in. There we go. The phone lines brought to you by theattic.shop.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Theattic.shop, formerly known as Grindhouse. Call in to the Attic phone line. What can I do for you, Sebastian?
Smitty, I think you're sleeping a little bit on Roman Wilson, man. He looks like a Tyler Lockett.
Why am I? Hold on. Why am I sleeping? Why am I sleeping on him? Because I don't have him listed as my one player for Javon Baker. Like, I haven't talked negatively about Roman Wilson. I'm not sleeping on him. It's just like you can't put every. If I don't make somebody my next Tank Dell in a video, like I'm not sleeping on Malachi, because people are saying you're sleeping on Malachi Corley. Don't tell me I'm sleeping on Malachi Corley. Like, that is the dumbest statement someone could ever say to me. Like, but just because I'm talking about this guy right now doesn't mean I'm sleeping on Roman Wilson. I like Roman Wilson. We talked about Roman Wilson quite a bit on this channel. But go ahead, Sebastian. Go ahead.
He looks like a solid wide receiver 2. Get it done. I think he's gonna pan out like a Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, but like, okay, so that's good. But like, what are you saying to me? Because I've never once said he couldn't be a wide receiver 2. Is he a fantasy football wide receiver 1? Never. If you think that he will be, then yeah, maybe I'm sleeping on him. Because I don't think I'm ever waking up. But like, is he a team's number 2? A team's very good number 2? Yes. Is he a fantasy football wide receiver 2? That's going to be hard, bro.
Maybe.
That's a hard sell.
Maybe.
I would say no. But doesn't mean he's not a good player, or that I'm sleeping on him or anything like that. I like him a lot. So Travis calling, for some reason it didn't let me add you. But I mean, the problem with that situation is Pickens is the number 1. And so Roman Wilson can never be this elite prospect unless he knocks off Pickens, and I don't think he will.
But remember how everyone saw the Texans wide receiver room last year with all those question marks, and they're like, what is Stroud going to be? No one knew who Nico was. No one knew who Dell was.
No one knew who Dell was. What are you talking about?
Or, well, like, they weren't expecting that much.
What do you mean no one was expecting it? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about like the general public right
Okay.
now. I'm not talking about
Okay.
like truck drivers.
I don't know, bro. I mean, but this isn't the general public. So you're trying to say, well, the general public didn't know about it, even though we did know about Tank Dell. We did know what was going on. So you can't then all of a sudden,
it was
you can't.
obvious.
I know, but then you can't all of a sudden go back outside to the general public thinking and then try and apply that to me about Roman Wilson. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because the general public missed what we didn't, that is no good argument to say that I'm missing on Roman Wilson being, you know, the next elite player. I like Roman Wilson. I do. I don't hate him at all. But there's very little chance in my mind he becomes better than George Pickens. But anything's possible. Anything. I mean, the other thing too is, and I always leave room for this, is that some players progress differently at the NFL level, and they just thrive. You know, like I always use Terrell Owens as an example. He was really good, but in his rookie year, he was good. Remember that touchdown catch, and he was kind of skinnier. And then Terrell Owens just beefed up and became a whole different player. So I always leave that opening, you know, but like in terms of like right now, scouting from a fantasy football perspective, can Roman Wilson be a wide receiver 1 or even an elite wide receiver 2 in fantasy? I can't say that with what we have in front of us right now. Is there a world where he has the drive and coaching and the combination of everything to become something that he never really was in college? That's a whole different thing. As a prospect and what we can see him to become, it's not there. Like, he's a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, maybe. And that's it. So anyway, enough about Roman Wilson. We're talking about Javon Baker. And on the phone right now, I've got Travis Rowe, New England Patriot extraordinaire. Travis, what do you think the odds are he is better than Polk?
So I put it this way: his ceiling is higher than Polk. I don't know if we see that for sure. Year one, it's going to depend on quarterback play too, and I try to be unbiased for the Patriots too. I'm very excited about him. I think he could be a wide receiver 1 for them. I think Polk is more of like a, you know, more polished. You've heard like comps to, you know, if he hits his peak like a Robert Woods or something like that. Whereas Baker, not only does he have like the build and the mentality and the stretch the field, down the field weapons, you know. I think if the quarterback play is good enough and the line play is good enough, then, you know, you could see a really decent rookie season out of him. I still don't know if I'm going to say he's like the next Tank Dell or not, but I think that's what we're looking at for like a ceiling, is someone that comes out, you know, that was off the radar, and, you know, whether it's in the preseason or a couple games in or something, everyone's talking about him all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like him. Obviously I'm doing a show on him, dedicated to him. But I think the thing that's most important to me with this is the cost of entry. So in redraft, he's free. Like in redraft, you're drafting him as your last probably draft selection if you're drafting with Uncle Bob and Aunt Edna. But if you're drafting in like a draft full of sharks, he might go, depends. In our community, he's going to go a little earlier. But you might have to take him around 15 or 14 or 17. Or I don't really know. It just depends on who you're drafting with. Are you in New England? Are you not? Is anybody in the fan club here and likes him coming out of college? There's a lot of factors. But at the end of the day, in redraft, he costs you literally nothing. And I'm not even saying in every redraft setting, if you got small benches, you can even roster him. He might be somebody you watch.
Right.
And from Dynasty, you got, I think it was Coble, or whoever, I think it was Coble that super chatted that. Like, what do you do if you're in the middle of the second round and you're afraid that your pick in the late third won't get it done? Do you take him in the second round? He's already climbing. Yeah, climbing into the second round is not a big deal to me. Like, I don't care if you take a third rounder in the second round. So from a Dynasty perspective, he's still almost nothing. Like, you miss on Javon Baker at 2.7 in your rookie draft, doesn't do anything. You don't lose anything. You don't go down. Your team doesn't plummet. You don't ruin your Dynasty team. Like, but if you land him And he seems to be, at least mentality-wise and at least what I see eyeball-wise in the very small amount that we have, because it's 1 year, that there's a really good shot, and it's just whenever somebody has this kind of mentality and drive and they go to a situation that's wide open and they pass the eye test for me on top of that, it starts to, bells start to go off. So I'm looking at wide open situation, rapport's untapped with the quarterback, so he can be the guy that builds the rapport with the quarterback. And then the attitude's there, the mentality's there, the drive's there, the dog mentality. Like, I'm going to outplay everyone. I'm going to outwork everyone. This guy's going to be probably the guy that's first there in the morning and guy last to leave. And you mix that with passing the eyeball test, all the bells start going off. Doesn't mean I'm going to get a lock on it. Doesn't mean he won't get hurt. Doesn't mean he won't get passed over. Doesn't mean he won't go over diva and just, have too much diva mentality. So.
Well, and did you see, maybe you mentioned, I might have missed it, what Matthew Judon was saying about him?
Go ahead and explain it.
He was saying, like, he was, just to paraphrase it, he was saying, when he comes in the locker room, I don't want him to have his head down, be quiet, not making any noise. I want him to be himself. In other words, saying, like, he's not necessarily cocky, but like you said, confident and driven, but be that, And so I think that's a good sign that he's going to have support from the veterans that are on the team already. And you see kind of a change happening around the locker room, moving away from the Belichick Patriot way thing, which worked great for 20 years, but things have to change, and it had gotten stale. So it's a little bit different around there now.
The other thing that kind of the other thing that screams too, absolutely, Sebastian, I guess you hung up. You can call back in if you want. I didn't mean for you to hang up. The other thing that screams, like, I don't know, the bells go off for me, is that I don't know if anybody's ever like worked out. I've said this example before. Worked out with a buddy that's much bigger, or two buddies that are much bigger than you, and you sit down at the bench with them, and you can't even lift what they're lifting, but you don't want to inconvenience them. Like, oh, let's take off the 45s and put on things. So you lift what they're lifting. They spot you, but you're going to progress 10 times faster than they are and better. You're going to get up to where they are, and they're barely going to go much beyond where they're at. And so you're going to catch up immediately to them. If you work out with people that are twice as strong as you, you will progress 10,000 times more than them. And so the way I look at this situation is that there's nobody here. This wide receiver room is completely empty. And you throw a guy into this situation that is untapped. He's going to make mistakes, but he's going to grow more than maybe any other rookie receiver, because he's going to be thrown to the wolves and have to learn on the job, and he'll have more opportunity to fail and to learn and absorb. And so, like that person working out with much better, stronger players, and he's just sitting there like totally out of place, he's going to absorb a lot. Trial by fire, throw him to the fire. You hear those phrases all the time. Yeah. There's no wide receiver that's commanding this room that's like, oh yeah, I'm just a total locked in number one veteran, follow me. It's like, this guy is going to have to become that. Him and Polk will have to become that. I'm not trying to write Polk off entirely, because like I said, some scouts even said that he was like the 5th or 4th or 6th, ranked wide receiver in the class. He's definitely got a lot of upside and ability. You could almost say Polk or Baker becomes the next Moon Man. That's even fair enough, because Polk is very undervalued. And I think the little bit of excitement for this kid that is not so contained that it's only on this channel. There are people in Deep Dynasty that think he's got a good upside. You might see Polk gets extremely undervalued, and you could literally just say Polk and Baker cuffed together in a weird handcuff situation guarantees you a really good shot. Not a guaranteed locked 100% shot, but guarantees you a very good shot at having a really damn good wide receiver between the two of them. And this is why I love what New England did with the double quarterbacks and double wide receivers. Even though Joe Milton's not going to unseat Drake May, it was just such a smart move. Because if Drake May were to get hurt, or let's say Drake May does bust for whatever reason, you've got another shot You got another, more ammunition in the chamber. You got another shot at it. And so it was just a great move. But I love Baker. I think Baker's got so much upside and room to grow.
Well, and one other point with Polk is, I'm not saying that the Patriots didn't like him or didn't want him, but he wasn't their first choice at that spot in the draft, because it's come out now that, basically it's been confirmed that they wanted Leggett or Keon Coleman. They tried to trade with the Bills, and the Bills wouldn't trade with him. And I actually called in to criticize him and say, if you're that close and you want a guy, go and get him. And when Brian Thomas dropped to where he dropped, why didn't the Patriots go and get him? You had the ammunition to go and move. So, don't use the excuse, this one team didn't want to trade with us. And, we just couldn't get up there. If you wanted him, you could have got up there without selling the farm,
Yeah.
So I kind of criticize him on that, because I like Polk. But, imagine if they had a Leggett or a Keon Coleman instead on top of what they did.
Yeah. Isaac says, let me read these super chats real quick. Isaac says, are the Eagles defense the Cowboys defense of this year? I think what you're trying to say, first of all, the Eagles were a strong defensive play last year, and they were up and down or whatever. But yeah, I think Fangio, and he's got the probably top 2 defense in the league. And dare I say, maybe a defense cracks the Moon Man list for the first time. So the Eagles could be potentially that Moon Man. We might put the Eagles defense on the Moon Man list to get arguably the 2 best corners. And that was a weakness they needed to fill. And they got arguably the 2 best corners in the draft. And Fangio, everything is going to line up. The Eagles are going to be absolutely scary on defense, and you shorten the field. This is going to be just a bunch of scoring this year. The Eagles defense is going to put the Eagles offense back on the field on a regular basis in good field position, not to mention the kickoff rules alone put you in good field position. So that's why I think Jalen Hurts is going to have such a big year too. A lot of players will, but the Eagles are potentially Moon Man capable. Absolutely. The Eagles are going to win the NFC, in my opinion. As much as I'd like other teams, I'm not saying that those other teams won't put up a fight. I know everybody wants to list their favorite team. I know everybody wants to say the Detroit Lions are a squad, and how dare you, Smitty? The Lions are great too. The Packers are absolutely on the rise. The Rams could be very, very scary. Whoever your team is, but I just believe that this is last year's bracket. I just believe that at the end of the day, this team is set up to just pile drive through to the championship game, where they'll face off against probably the Chiefs, but it could really be anybody, even the Bengals, who aren't on this list right here. But it'll probably be Philly versus KC if I have to throw an early projection on it. That would be my early. I'll change this and make this my projection bracket. This is last year's bracket, by the way. But anyway, thank you, Isaac, for that $2 hauler. And then Calvin Krim, $5 hauler. Troy Franklin with Bo Nix will be interesting. He should be wide receiver 2 at the start of the season. I expect him to surpass Sutton as the wide receiver 1 fairly quickly. Yeah, that will be interesting. To have your quarterback and wide receiver land in Denver is pretty good for continuity and rapport. And
Patriot is still there too.
Yeah, it's a good spot for Franklin. And Sutton may have done well, but he did well mainly in touchdowns. And I think you take away raindrop Russell Wilson, throws those nice footballs into the end zone for a guy like Sutton. Maybe Sutton vanishes. There's no guarantee that Sutton's going to do anything remotely close. So Franklin will be a nice prospect too. I mean, think about it. Nix is going to favor Franklin over everybody. Doesn't matter, So he is probably the number 1 there in time, if not right away. The Dolphins are putting together a great squad. Incredible depth at wide receiver, running back, plus Jonnu Smith atop our tight ends. You don't use your tight end very often, though, but I hear what you're saying. I know you had the bold prediction up here. It's probably the boldest one up here. I love that it's bold, though, Superfish. Superfish said that Jonnu Smith would be a top 5 tight end this year. That was crazy bold. I like that. That one's the boldest. Yeah, you guys have some good... You've lost a lot of pieces, but you've also added in another, handful of other pieces. So, fill one hole, plug another. have another hole, plug another hole. Like, it's kind of been, I think, almost even in a way, like of how you filled those I don't know, voids. But I would say this is a good potential year for the Dolphins if Tua stays healthy. My problem has been and always will be that I think Miami Mike he has a blind spot for his quarterback spot. I'm not saying Tua can't do it. I'm not saying Tua shouldn't start, but not drafting Jordan Travis, not drafting Rattler, not drafting Pratt, and especially not drafting Joe Milton, who I think would be very, very good in Miami Mike's office, just because like he could throw short passes to Tyreek, and they could really game plan around this guy's strengths, and he could run, and that would be very interesting for this offense. I just don't know why Miami Mike McDaniel's trusting and putting everything on the line, almost like in retrospect, we don't know how the Jets didn't plan for not having Aaron Rodgers, and why I love the Atlanta Falcons getting Penix Jr. And I think everybody that thinks it's a dumb move, they can call into my phone line and say it to my face, and I will shoot down your ridiculous argument that says it was a stupid move, because it was a brilliant move. It just was unorthodox. It just didn't make people feel warm and fuzzy. It made people feel like it was a waste of a pick. But this team did what it needed to do, and it grabbed who they wanted to grab, and they secured a position, the most important position in the NFL, that if you don't have a quarterback, and you could argue they shouldn't have signed Kirk Cousins to such a big deal. I thought the deal was too big. I didn't understand why Kirk Cousins could command what he could command just because of the market the way it was. You know, the market was the way it was. So many teams needed a quarterback, but they didn't go after Fields. So clearly the market wasn't so big that the Falcons had to pay that amount of money. But that has nothing to do with, in my opinion, drafting Penix Jr. And anyway, the Dolphins should have done similar. The Dolphins should have traded up for Penix Jr. and put him right behind Tua Tagovailoa. That would have been a smart move. That was even more smart than what the Falcons did, more smart than what the Jets did with Jordan Travis. So anyway, but yeah, I'm excited about the Dolphins in Superfish. You know I'm rooting for the Dolphins to have a great year because I want Devon Achane to get into the end zone about 15 times. You know your team is solid when you can draft a DB in the first round. Eagles got 2, and that team is going to be scary next year. I envy their fan base. The Eagles are just going to absolutely pile drive through everybody. And I got Raj and the Niner fan base like all up in arms when I went into Raj's live stream, and I was like, I'll bet you the Eagles have a better season than the Niners, advance further in the playoffs. And they were like, what? The Eagles? they have no clue. They have no clue that the Eagles just played 5D chess against them in the draft. They have no clue that their defense is going to be stronger than the Niners' defense. They have no clue that they have more weapons than anybody but maybe them, but have the overall better squad, especially defensively. It's unbelievable. I'm baffled when a Niner fan absolutely thinks that the Eagles were broken. Oh, Jalen, and then I follow it up every time I'm in there, and they're all upset at me. I followed up with you don't really think Brock Purdy's better than Jalen Hurts from a football perspective, do you? And they're like, oh my God, they can't believe it. Give up Rashee Rice for a 2.3 and 4th. I say like no now. Like I'm not saying no. I'm saying in my head, I'm like, do I say no to that? And then 2.3 ends up being a much better player than I anticipate every time. Like I always think, second rounder, I don't want. But like at 2.3, when I'm looking at it, I'm gonna go, damn, how did he fall? So I guess I would take 2.3 in a 4th rounder. I hate to say that, but Rashee Rice is out for at least half a year. I think a whole year. And then what happens when he comes back? And if this thing drags out until midseason or later, he's going to have a horrible year mentally and then be suspended, and his career is going to be over. You can't miss 2 years. Mentally, misses this year. Next year, misses it. He better expedite this.
Not to mention, his spot could be gone. Like, whether it's Worthy or Hollywood.
Yeah.
Or both of them. They could play well, and he's just not a favorite target anymore.
Yeah. Matto says the Eagles team is scary on paper. Wow. Matto, just wait, bro. They're like, how could someone not be afraid of Barkley, Hurts, a paid Devontae Smith, a paid A.J. Brown, an underrated and never talked about Dallas Goedert, and probably the best defense in the National Football League now? Or at least top 3, and you're underrating them and you're putting them 3 or whatever. This is all you hear is somebody go, but Kelsey's gone. They won't do the brotherly shove anymore. Oh, that brotherly shove was all Kelsey, huh?
It's
just ridiculous,
that paid
bro.
part is such a huge point too, because that's just so much less drama or stress or dark cloud to be hanging over players. Their 2 best receivers are paid.
Yeah, they're happy, bro. They're happy. The whole team. Kellen Moore is so underrated too. I get he didn't do what he was supposed to do in LAC, but we knew LAC was a potential trap. Maybe Harbaugh changes that, but honestly, the more I look at what Harbaugh's doing, the more I want to vomit. Like I don't know if Harbaugh's gonna fail, but is the most bland and mid team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This team is, and it's so funny because a Charger fan gets so upset. They go, they're built from the trenches. This guy doesn't know football clearly. He only knows fantasy football because he doesn't understand you build from the trenches. No shit. Like, I know that. But you can't just build your trench and then expect a bunch of mids and janitors to execute on top of that trench. You could build the best trench in the world, but if you send out a bunch of Mickey Mouse janitors and water boys out of the trench to go fight the war, your trench don't mean shit. Can easily see the Eagles winning the NFC, absolutely, and be the NFC Championship champs this year. I could see him being the Super Bowl champs. I think Jalen Hurts, calm, cool, collected quarterback, is going to prove everybody wrong. There's so many haters. I remember C-Mac and the Niner guys, they hated Jalen Hurts before he became Jalen Hurts, and I said, you watch, he's going to be an elite player. And C-Mac, I don't know if C-Mac's watching right now, but he ate his words. He came back, crawled back, put his tail between his legs and said, Smitty, you were right on Jalen Hurts. Now they're all saying Jalen Hurts is trash again. He got broken. He's not a good quarterback. He's not even a top 10 quarterback. They're jumping all over the place, back and forth. Just watch. As soon as Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl, it's going to be back to forgetting negative things were said about Jalen Hurts. And I'll be here to remember it with the receipts. Jalen Hurts is going to win leagues. And Jalen Hurts is going to win the league in football, in real football. And Jalen Hurts is going to win fantasy leagues because he has the best ADP maybe in fantasy at 4.1. Let me show you the Saturn men.
The Saturn men.
One small step for man.
Let me go over to Cody and then to Theo, who've been waiting patiently. But first, before I say that, I'm just going to say, Travis, I guarantee you that my Saturn man list, people are going to laugh at it in the offseason and say, oh, what a bold list. Because the 4.1 and 5.1 values of Hurts and Mahomes will not be remembered. It will be like, oh, we knew they were great. And the thing is, you didn't, or you wouldn't have let Hurts fall to 4.1. The thing is, you didn't, Al. Actually, you didn't, Al, because you let Mahomes fall to 5.1. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say that you believed in Mahomes or Hurts this year if you're letting them fall to the 4th and 5th drafted players for a person's team. You just can't. It doesn't matter what you say. You can't. What, Travis?
I just see it's crazy how, like, especially with Hurts. Well, first with Mahomes, just because we know, like, last year was like Mahomes' floor, and he was still a great quarterback. And then with Hurts, it's like, did they not learn the first time? They doubted him, and what was he, like a 6th or 7th round pick a couple of years ago? Yeah. And then he just went nuts, had a great season, and then, things go down a little, he gets a little banged up, and he's right back on the trash heap.
Yeah. All right, go over to Cody. Cody, you're live. Thanks for waiting.
Yo, what's up, Smitty? Thanks for having me.
Yo.
So Javon Baker, super excited as a Pats fan. All the news, all the buzz is right on line with what you're saying. A lot of people are high on him, and they're saying he's a value because he fell a little further than what they expected him to be taken at. But as far as the Tank Dell comparisons, while I'm hopeful, I say there's a couple caveats. One being Stroud basically selected Tank Dell, if I'm not mistaken. And so I feel like the rookie quarterback and the rookie receiver combo played a big part in their chemistry last year. And you could see it a mile away with Tank Dell, too, during those preseason games. I mean, I don't know if everyone watched them, but
maybe
he would
because
just take over drive.
Maybe because you're attuned to it, though, bro. But I could promise you that outside of this community and the, people that were all over this, like very few people. Some people relate to the party. Some people copy the show or whatever, and they start promoting it. But I can guarantee you that the sum total of what people expected out of Tank Dell was either driven in they didn't know about him, or they said he was too small and he would fail, and they did know about him, and they vocalized it. So it doesn't matter, he's going to get dominated. So I still don't think when Tank Dell started to explode, people were coming out of the woodwork going, holy crap, this guy's good. Or the whole channel, all the comments would be like, Tank Dell, can't believe it, heard it here, only you, we're talking about. So like I take great pride in that, and so I push back a little bit and say that there's it's hindsight's always 20/20, bro. During even the preseason, the majority, 95% of everyone doubted or didn't know who he was. I do not agree with that. But go ahead, keep going with your point.
Like I said, if you're tuned in, as you were saying, which people weren't, so that's a quick tip for everyone. If you're not watching the preseason on these guys, check it out.
Yeah, buddy.
But back to the Javon Baker situation. The Patriots have said so far that they want to use Brissett as the lead guy this year, have Drake May sit. And if that's the case, Javon Baker would either A, have to beat out all the talent on the Patriots roster in order to be that productive player in the offense, or Brissett is going to have to go down. And if Drake May goes in, after building a relationship with him during the preseason and offseason, then I think you could really see Javon Baker explode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
think
hate.
He's super athletic, super talented.
I don't hate your take.
Definitely could hit those.
I don't hate your take. The only thing I'll say is that you're making a lot of assumptions in that Javon Baker can't climb. He can't climb the wide receiver ranks without Drake May. Like that's a big assumption. You're saying that when they hit the field, Javon Baker's not going to be just blowing everyone out of the water and become the number one on his own right. Like you're basically saying that he needs Drake May to hold his hand and drag him up. I think that's a big assumption. I'm not saying it's not also presumptuous to say he'll take the job as a second drafted rookie in this entire lump of rookies, but I just think that there's a lot of we're both doing a lot of assuming, bro. There's what you're saying sounds good, but I don't.
On both sides.
Yeah. What you're saying sounds good, but it's like you're definitely counting him out in a way by acting, as if he can't, grab this number, be the number one wide receiver in his own right. That has nothing to do with Brissett or Drake May. It's not like they're going to say, okay, back up. Nothing can change here. May and Javon Baker, you guys go to the little kids table and start throwing footballs together. They build a rapport and they can only climb together. There's a chance that if he wasn't good enough, May would climb without him, and they wouldn't just throw Baker into the lineup. He'd have to be good enough to get into the lineup. Mm-hmm. But I understand what you're saying. This is a deep call, bro. You don't think I had this conversation with 1,000 people over the course of the offseason when I said Tank Dell is going to be the next Tank Dell? You don't think people are like, he's too small. He's 150 dripping wet, Smitty. He'll get dominated at the line of scrimmage. This conversation we're having is no different than the Tank Dell situation. If anything, Tank Dell was more obscure in some ways.
We knew that happened. Like you're saying, we knew those conversations were being taken place. But like I said, I do think it's a little bit of a different situation because at the time that C.J. Stroud got taken, he was the guy. As opposed to Drake May is seen so far as the future, not the right now, unless he just explodes. Baker explodes.
But
we literally find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, then I'm happy.
But we haven't seen Baker though fail to climb the wide receiver ranks though. You know what I mean?
No.
So I mean,
but at the same time, if we discredit Polk, because we don't know what Polk is going to do,
But why can't they both be the 1 and 2?
Mario Davis or Douglas and Kendrick Bourne is going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The Patriots were dysfunctional on multiple levels last year. Between the coordinators, the quarterbacks. I feel personally, if we can get just a little bit of consistency, it could be a totally different looking team this year.
And I won't sit here and pretend that they can't screw this up. Like, the Patriots need to prove a lot to me.
That's also another
I agree.
case.
But we're also talking about
they can fumble it.
We're also talking about a guy that is literally costing you negative in terms of price. He's literally somebody that nobody can even, you're not going to waste a pick on him. You'll just drop him and pick your first waiver wire.
Caveat. When you're talking about redraft, yes, keep an eye on them. And like I said, I feel like if there's a situation where May enters the lineup as a starter, you definitely want to keep these rookie wide receivers because that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's just how NFL teams operate. The ones run with the ones, and rookies, the twos, the threes, they run together, and so naturally they build more of a chemistry.
But the whole point here, though, is that this wide receiver room is wide open. Kendrick Bourne, Douglas, these guys aren't cemented in by any means. So I think there's 100% different situation there where you're like, okay, the ones run with the ones, the two. No, there's nobody. Like Javon Baker could go out and be the most veteran-looking player from the jump, so let's just wait and see. The cost of entry on Javon Baker is so much lower than it was on even Tank Dell, just because. So it's just one of those situations. All right, hey, appreciate you, Cody. We'll see you later, pal. Theo, hang tight. Let me get this $50 bold prediction out of the way from Calvin Krim, dropping his 50 watt. He says bold prediction: NFC chaos. McCarthy, Sirianni, and Dable all fired by the end of the season. DQ becomes the only head coach. How do I write this all on the board, though, Calvin? This prediction's wild.
I guess just McCarthy, Sirianni, Dable all fired.
Yeah, I think that's the only. That's good. McCarthy, Dable, Sirianni fired.
Give me $50 holler. Get by the brother, Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
Calvin Krim, Sirianni, Dable, McCarthy, all fired. That's a bold one. That's a bold one, Calvin. That's a really bold one. Sirianni could be fired if this doesn't work out. That's no doubt. Dable could get fired. I mean, it's bold. It could happen though. But I think the Eagles are so good.
Could be fired too.
Yeah, that one. Dable, I think, gets another shot, but I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah, I do too.
Anything can happen for sure.
Never know.
This year's Super Bowl will be in New Orleans. In the New Orleans to tie Miami for the most Super Bowl hosted by a city at 11. Says Superfish. Theo, you're live.
Yeah, I'm hearing people saying that they'd rather have Caleb than Lamar right now, which is just crazy for Dynasty.
Oh, your Aunt Edna said this? And was this at the funeral home, or the?
No, just in a bunch of, I was having some comment section arguments with some people who were saying they'd rather have Caleb over Lamar. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to some some kid in high school, bro. That's lives in Chicago. I don't think anybody's saying that on any sort of grand level. If they are, it's pretty ridiculous. But
yeah.
Anyway. Hey, man, people that believe in Caleb, they think he could be as good as anybody. So doesn't shock me, but they're very blind. Those are Chicago Bear fans, probably.
Oh, for sure.
What else you got, Theo?
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
While you're thinking of that, let me just see who this is. 951 caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? 951.
What's up, Smitty? It's Mo from San Marcos.
Mo from San Marcos. What's up, Mo?
What's up, man? So I wanted to see, how far do you have Achan and JT? Like, how do you have that disparity? How far do you have them ranked?
I think probably pretty close, but I have Achan over him. I'm not scared about Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright's a threat to... I don't even say he's a threat to Mostert. He's just Mostert's replacement once Mostert gets injured, and Mostert will get hurt. And if you think about it from this perspective, and this is what I try and preach all the time, nobody wants Achan to be the lone starter between the tackles. Nobody wants that. I don't want that. People that love Achan don't want that. He's Deebo Samuel. Miami Mike helped architect greatly. Big percentage of the reason why Deebo and his role exists is because of Mike McDaniel. So Mike McDaniel has created and architected a Deebo Samuel role for Achan. It just so happens he's running back playing wide receiver and running back versus wide receiver playing running back and wide receiver. So Achan's got his role. He's not even affected by Mostert. Like, that's the dumbest argument people make about, well, Mostert's still there, and then they bring in Wright, like Wright's still there. Wright and Mostert are like the same position. And so if Mostert goes down, and at 32 years old, he probably is going down at some point. I just don't see him holding up after last year's workload at the age of 32 this year. If he goes down, what happens? Then you have one running back. You have just Achan, who's supposed to be this utility all over the field, and now he's got to be only between the tackles, and we don't want him to break or anything like that. So it's like, at what point do you say, if Mostert's out of the picture at some point, Wright will get in there and he will do the same thing Mostert's doing. I'm not worried at all. So Achan doesn't go down at all for me because of Wright. If anything, it might end up being a blessing in disguise to have that player ready for when Mostert exits, and you don't want everything falling on Achan. Achan, you want to have almost equal receptions as rushes. So I would say JT and Achan are close. I don't blame anybody for having JT ahead because he feels like the more pure between the tackle runner. It's just people feel comfortable with that. But we live in a world in an NFL now where, especially in a Miami Mike McDaniel offense, where an Achan or a Gibbs in Detroit with Monty still there, it's probably better to have Monty there than not have him there for Gibbs. This is a different kind of NFL. And so I'm not scared of it, but other people might be. I would say he's like one or two running backs behind Achan for me.
All right, sounds good.
But that's mid-second round. I think most people will call JT top of round 2. I'm going to say mid-round 2, which is not bad. But Achan's usually there, so I'm taking Achan most times. But I do diversify a little bit.
Okay. Can I sneak in one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. What about Gibbs over Puka? That run our receivers at the end of the first. Puka, Wilson,
Gibbs,
Amon-Ra,
Gibbs
over all of them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not crazy to go St. Brown, but I'm going Gibbs. I'm going Gibbs. Give me Gibbs and MHJ over St. Brown and what other running back I get. But it's kind of apples to apples because, I mean, St. Brown and Achan or St. Brown and JT or St. Brown and Kyron, and you can get Kyron pretty easily at the mid-round 2 now. So St. Brown and Kyron's as good as Gibbs and MHJ maybe, or Gibbs and Garrett Wilson. I mean, you could argue those are pretty close.
I appreciate you, Smitty.
All right, later, bro. Hey, Denny's on the phone. Denny, are you going to meet me in Vegas? I'm going to Vegas.
You going to Vegas, Smitty?
Yeah, same event, June 28 and June 29, same place, stadium swim, circa. I'm going to be there Friday, June 28, Saturday, June 29. Are you coming?
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's tight.
Can you write that down?
That's right.
I think you need to write it down.
Man, that's tight. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Denny, you got to write it down. There's no way you're remembering this.
No.
You're not remembering this. You're gonna forget if it's June or July. You won't remember the day. Write it down. June 28, June 29, Vegas. Anybody else who wants to come, I'll be there doing a live stream, the Scott Fishbowl. What?
All right, I got Vegas. All right, what else should I say?
Okay, so you're coming. June 28, June 29, Vegas. Stadium swim. Are you going to bring a football and zip it to me? You going to zip me a football?
Every time I wanted to bring it was zip it, and then they didn't let me bring it in. I was going to zip it to you, but you didn't. Okay, Vegas.
He's ready.
Vegas.
Attaboy.
Well, I was going to zip it to you.
Yeah, June 28, June 29.
Oh, June 28. Nice.
All right. Hey, Denny, what do you hear? What do you hear? What do you say? What do you think about this New England Patriot topic I've got going on screen right here? Javon Baker, your second drafted rookie receiver. We're talking about him being potentially the next Tank Dell. How do you feel about that, Denny?
I like Tank Dell. I grabbed Tank Dell in my own. I grabbed that kid because I watched him in what's that shit when you watch? I watched. I go Tank Dell. He can run down the field, right, and then he can catch it. I love Tank Dell. I'm not sure what else you want me to say.
I asked you a question, Denny. I asked you a specific New England Patriot question, and all you did was talk about Tank Dell.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay, here it is again. Let me rephrase it to you, Denny. Focus. Javon Baker is this New England Patriot receiver, Javon Baker, your second drafted rookie wide receiver. You drafted Jalen Polk as your number one. You drafted Javon Baker as your number 2 wide receiver in this rookie class. This show is about Javon Baker. This entire show. And the show is calling him maybe the next Tank Dell. How do you feel about a New England Patriot, your team, being talked about on this show right now? This is the focus of the show, is a New England Patriot rookie wide receiver named Javon Baker, who I don't think you even know your team drafted him. Denny?
I'm very excited. Okay, I know you drafted him. All right.
You didn't know who he was.
Don't make an F out of me. All right, Smitty?
I don't think you knew who he was, Denny. Just admit it. You didn't. Just admit it, Denny. You didn't know you drafted him. Just admit it. It's okay. I'm here to help you, so it's okay.
Smitty, I didn't know that we drafted him.
I know.
All right.
It's all right. I'm glad you admitted it.
I like girls.
Hey,
your girl kind of likes me though. Your girl likes me though. You know what I mean? You ever notice that?
Miss Smitty, you this guy went up to waitresses and said, "Are you Miss Smitty? Are you Miss Smitty? Are you Miss Smitty?" He just went up to waitresses and asked them if they were Miss Smitty. They looked at him like you're absolutely insane. So that wasn't Miss Smitty. But hey, Denny, she does know who you are. She does. Even the other day, we were going to get dinner, and I said, "Hey, that guy Denny, you remember that guy Denny?" And she's like, "I know who Denny is."
I love it. All right. I love it. I absolutely love it. And the reason why I said that to her, you Miss Smitty, when I was at the pool at Circa.
Yeah, it wasn't her.
I just thought.
You thought what?
I kind of wish Miss Smitty was gonna just hang out. But
so Miss Smitty wouldn't hang out. Miss Smitty wouldn't come hang out with people from the show, and so you willed it. You willed it to be one of the waitresses. You just in fairy tale land, like almost like in an insane asylum. Yeah, you just make up something. This person's gonna be Miss Smitty for the moment.
You know, Smitty, I was chilling. I had a good time. You kind of blew me off.
No, I didn't blow you off, Denny. Denny, you vanished. Okay, you showed up. I was live on my show. I'm pointing at you. I hugged you live on air. We dabbed up, and then you vanished. And then when I ended my show, you were gone. You showed up for 5 minutes. You said, I'll be right back. You never came back. That was the entire day one. Day two, you showed up while I was live. Hold on. Denny, you showed up while I was live again day two. I could only talk so much while I'm live. Denny's in the building. You said, I'll be right back. You vanished. You never came back. I never saw you again. You showed up twice for 5 minutes.
Listening? No. Okay. Anyone listening, dude, that knows how much I love Smitty?
He does.
Dude, he treated me like a wet food stamp. I'm serious. I showed up. I thought I was going to be with him. I thought we were going to be talking together. And he goes, he told me that he pointed out the other way, and everything went sour after that. I'm sorry, Smitty. You're my best friend, you know what I mean? But the only reason why I said is that you miss Smitty was because I know
Hey, Denny.
You know why I said that,
Denny.
Smitty,
Denny. I don't know why you said that, but here, Denny.
Yeah.
You literally showed up for 5 minutes both days, and you left and never came back. How am I blowing you off? How am I treating you like a wet food stamp? I'm live the two times you show up, and I'm waving to you. I even hugged you on air, and then you said, "I'll be right back," like a dad that's gonna leave his kid and never come back. You went and got ice, and you never came back both times.
You pointed while I was there. You pointed. I had a nice beverage, and you pointed. I remember that.
I said, Denny.
And you pointed like go away pointed.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Get out of here. Come on. Does anybody here buy the story that he showed up on day two? First of all, day one, I was talking to you while I was live because you were sitting there. There weren't a bunch of people around. I'm like, Denny's here. I kept showing Denny. I said, Denny, dance for the camera. I'd switch the camera, and Denny would dance in front of everybody. And then you vanished. After 5 minutes, you vanished. Never came back. The second time, does anybody here buy for a second that Denny walked in with his tasty beverage, and I said, go? Does anybody here buy that?
You even you even put out like a public service announcement saying that you hadn't seen Smitty on Instagram.
The Denny. Yeah, no, Denny, on my stories, I said, haven't seen Denny.
He's right. Yeah, he's right.
He just wanted his Long Island.
Denny, this isn't working. You're talking a little nonsense right now.
No, I love you. No, she's the best. I love being there. He's gonna get weird though, right? He's gonna get weird.
No, it's not weird.
All right. Oh, Pesa, love seeing Smitty and Miss Smitty and all that. Only reason why I said you miss Smitty is because I wanted to be funny. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it was. It was funny, Denny. We're still talking about it, so clearly it was funny. But you keep saying like I love seeing Smitty and Miss Smitty. You never saw Miss Smitty. She was never there. That was the waitress.
I thought it was funny. All right.
It was funny.
Miss Smitty.
Denny, we're still talking about it. It's that funny. I do got to go because I'm actually ending the show right now. I'm going to come back tonight. Denny, anything else real quickly before I jump? This is not me hanging up on you. This is me having to go out the door. Anything else, pal?
I don't know what to say.
How about we reset? I'll see you in Vegas, and this time we'll do it right, no matter what. But you gotta hang out. You can't just vanish after 5 minutes and blame it on me.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, you better be there. June 28, June 29. Everybody here is going to see you live on the air. I'll switch the camera. I'll show you. And the moment you walk away after 5 minutes and you can't commit, I'm going to put the camera on you and we're going to watch you walk away. And everyone's going to know that you vanished. And then, do you come back or not? That's the question.
No, Smitty, I'm the guy that's there at all I'm the guy that's there.
Okay.
I'm the guy that
Hey,
loves you. You know what I mean?
Denny, I gotta go. I'll see you there. Call in tonight, but June hey,
sorry for your trouble.
June 28, June 29. You better be there, Denny.
Okay.
You better be there. Okay.
I was looking for Miss Smitty, all right?
Oh,
you
sure.
know what I mean? Why?
That's not creepy.
Because she's awesome.
All right, Denny, I appreciate you. Well, call in tonight, pal. Call in tonight. I love you, pal. Later. Best friends. We're best friends still, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. All right, Denny. Gotta go. Appreciate you. Chris, I can't talk long. You got 10 seconds. I'm sorry.
I don't know what was going on with that previous caller, bro. I'm a Patriots fan, and I'm here to actually talk about Javon Baker.
You got 8 seconds.
Really do much. He didn't really do much the 2 years he was at Alabama, but then he
4 seconds.
transferred over to UCF, and he was doing a lot better there. Flashed a lot of potential there, and I'm glad that we were able to double dip with Polk and then come back and get Baker.
Yes, sir.
It's a good look for the Patriot offense going forward.
It's good. It was a good move. Double dip, double up on the wide receivers. Better your chances of getting a good one. All right, Chris, call him tonight. Appreciate you. Travis, final thoughts.
All righty.
No, I'm good. I'll talk to you later.
All right, later, bro. Appreciate you. Rockout says protect Denny at all costs. Denny, Rockout's dropping super chats for you, saying protect Denny at all costs. Denny's my boy. I'm not mad at him. We just need a reset. I love that Denny is the $50 holler voice legend. Denny, I don't know if you've heard this.
$50. Give me $50 holler. Get better.
The thing is, I don't think Denny even watches the show, though. I don't think he's watching. Denny, prove you're watching by commenting. I don't think Denny's watching. He just calls in. That's it. You don't think he watches the show. All right, I'll see you all later. Javon Baker to the moon. Appreciate you all.